Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jesse James, Average Idiot, Eastern Kentucky's only, America's only AI-powered platform. America's only truly AI-powered platform. I'm drinking coffee. I don't have a straw, but scientifically proven that if you drink coffee through a straw, it goes straight to the dome. It bypasses the blood-brain barrier. And those are scientific facts. Go ahead and look it up. Today, we have Matt, Lawncare, little guy, and we're going to talk about business, life, love, Christ, being Christ is the King. We're going to talk about everybody's journey, where we're at in life, where he's at, where his channel's at, where my channel's at. We're just going to have a conversation, kind of see where it goes. And with that, Matt, the Lawncare, little guy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks, Jesse, for having me.
And you were one of the first people to reach out and kind of like you and Acme from Acme Mowing to really reach out and kind of help my channel get going. And I appreciate it. And the people that came over from your channel, it wasn't too long later that I went silent for a couple months. I kind of fell into a well, if you will. Life fell in around me. But I remember that. I appreciate that you reached a hand and, you know, growing an audience on YouTube. What made you even start YouTube? It's hard to grow an audience and to just send your guys there to some guy that's, you know, far away that you don't really know. It's, you know what I mean? I appreciate you doing that. So
yeah, what it was for me, it was interesting because when I was starting Lawncare, Geek to Freak was really popular. Do you know Geek to Freak?
Oh yeah.
Greg Chisholm. Yeah, a lot of guys do, but it's kind of interesting because a lot of the newer guys, they're like, Geek to Freak, who's this guy? Because he had to kind of reinvent himself a little bit. But when he went away, I was like, what am I going to do?
So you were big into watching some of his stuff then.
Oh yeah, huge. So it's like, I made a lot of mistakes in that first couple of years or whatnot, because he's just an interesting cat. He's got an interesting business model, but I was just like ate up everything he had to say, because it was like, man, it's like, you are like, what you're doing is what I want to do, And so I just, took him as my mentor, and he didn't even know it, but when he left, it kind of created a void in me, and I sat on that for a little bit, and I was like, man, what am I going to do? And I was like, I don't know, maybe I can make a channel. And so I made a video, and it was terrible. It was the worst video. I mean, it was bad, man, like really bad. It was like in my bedroom, I'm on my bed, crappy lighting like I got right now. Okay. And I made a video, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this channel, but we're just going to give this a go. And it went almost an entire year without a single subscriber.
Whoa.
Yeah, wow. I know, right? And then I got one subscriber.
There we go.
And and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I have a subscriber. Yeah. I was like, after a year, nobody's watched me at all. And I only made like one or two, maybe two videos, but somebody watched my video. So I was like, I don't care if he's the only guy I ever got. I'm making videos for that guy.
Yep. He's dedicated.
Yeah. And then it just kind of, went from there. And, I've had ups and downs. You talked about, you kind of sat it out for a little bit. And I do the same thing, because there's something I found with YouTube is, some people are going to be big. Some people are going to be big, like Brian's Long Maintenance, Spencer's, all these big dogs, right?
Yeah.
And, and it's part of their business. Yeah. And there's other guys that are just like, man, I just love being a part of the community. And I'm not saying they don't. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is there's some guys where it's just going to be fun for them. And that's kind of what it is for me. So it's like, I'm not really regular with my content. I'd like to be, no doubt I'd like to be, but I got a busy life going on. I'm running the part-time business. I'm working full-time. I got 2 young kids. I'm married. We're fixing to move. We're fixing to move out of this house and into an RV.
Wow.
So it's like a lot of things, so it's like basically prioritize. You got to prioritize it. And some people, they have that dream and they can pursue it. But me, it's just, God just never provided that path for me to really like I am all in for this. So I just kind of make videos every now and then. And I'm grateful that, the channel's still growing, on its own. And I'm really thankful for that. And honestly, I'm in a point now where I'm not even monetized. I've got the subscribers, and at the moment I got the watch hours, but I'm not even monetized. So, but that's kind of how I got started. And that's just kind of how it grew. It was just, I don't want to call it effortlessly, but it was just people would subscribe. I'd reach out to them and be like, hey, thanks, and then you start a little bit of dialogue and you kind of form a little bit of relationship. And it's like you start to care about these people,
Yeah, true. I
you
got,
know?
oh yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I got some really good friends that I've met through the internet, which 20 years ago, if you would have told me that 20 years ago, I was sitting there trying to work AOL chats and the group, I don't know, the forums and stuff. So I remember just trying to download oh man, going back 20 years ago, I can remember then. But if you'd have told me I would actually meet real friends and everything, I'd have called you a liar. I'd have said you're crazy. There's no way.
Yeah.
When you're talking about YouTube and different things, man, I know exactly what you're talking about when you're just, I was so nervous whenever I did my first video. I was mowing some grass, and I'm gonna cut in real quick. When you're talking about Mr. Chisholm, when Geek the Freak would do videos, I was a tow motor driver back like 2013, 14. I was a tow motor driver at Pepperidge Farm, moving cookies and crackers around,
Mm-hmm.
and I would sneak off in between bays, these big, long, huge bays that you have to drive forklift in, and I would just sit and watch videos of how to make $100 a day cutting grass. And I thought,
Right.
there's like, I'm here on a forklift making $12 an hour, $10 an hour, and that's good.
Mm-hmm.
$12 an hour is some years back was, I think it was about 12 starting out as a temp, and that was really good. And I was like, man, and if I can make $100 a day cash money mowing grass,
Right.
I'm doing something wrong. So that's how I figured him out. But I didn't really know there was a whole world of YouTube. I never seen myself ever making content. Fast forward a couple years later, 2019 into 2019, I finally made the jump to start my business. I was in a pretty good job. Actually, I thought it was my dream job. It was a different one I'm at now. My resume actually only has like 2 different jobs on it, but we all know how that works.
Yeah.
When I was sitting there, I got called back to a great job, man. And I was sitting there. It's all I ever wanted. That was like my life goal. And then something hit me to where I looked for that guy's channel. I looked for Geek to Freak Lawn Care. He's the only lawn care guy I thought was on YouTube. So I looked for him. He was gone.
Yeah.
He was gone. I'm like, that's weird. So then I found Dirt Monkey and he's all these other guys. And that got my brain going like, oh, there's all kinds of content now. There's tons of content.
Yeah.
How to make money mowing grass. And that was kind of my first video after I finally made the jump to do it part-time. I just took my phone out. I rambled into it like an idiot. And then I thought if I hit upload, it was like Facebook and it'd be instant.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Like, so
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got scared. I didn't know
Lord,
about
is this really going to take this long? Who's got time?
Right. So I threw it in my truck and then I just never paid attention to it. Well, I uploaded whenever I got home on my Wi-Fi and I had 4 views and it was a little bit too personal. So like my first 4 or 5 videos, I ended up taking off my channel, and Acme from Ben from Acme Mowing, he called me out on that. He's like, dude, you missing some videos here in the beginning. I was like, yeah, I'm missing like 5 or 6. I was a little too personal with my videos. A little too much information got out there. A client ended up seeing it. And yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. So, but when you're talking about just taking time, you don't want to force, and you could probably agree. You don't want to,
Right.
For me,
Right.
I want to be monetized. I want to take it to more of the YouTube podcast side to where I'm telling your story. And so everybody hears Brian's stories, and nothing against Brian. He's a good guy. He's a friend of the show, been on the show, but like,
Right.
there's all kinds of people like me and you who do it. We're doing it part-time, kind of full-time. Money seems to be full-time sometimes,
Right.
to do your business, right? So there's all kinds of guys out here with great stories. You got a great story. I got a crazy story. Everybody else got wild stories. With Juggernaut, friend of the channel, he's got a really crazy story with blowing up his YouTube. So that's kind of where I want to take it. So I'm not monetized yet either. I'm almost there. I'm really looking forward to it. And speaking of monetization, you had a video that made me cry like a baby. It was the video of Gary, the guy with the cancer.
Yeah.
I was just doing some research just to kind of see where your videos was at just before we was going. I was eating my dinner and I was sitting here and like had to like chill. Because like when you have children and like I felt the authenticity of the guy. Have you heard back from that guy or anything or any
right now? Because yeah, well, he is doing better, but he because I sent that donation in, I get these updates. so he's still running the fundraiser, but he is progressing. Now, I don't talk to him regularly. I just get these updates, and he's doing well. He's still on the right path, but you know, because of the situation he's in, you know, he's grinding in multiple areas of his life. You know, and I really wish that video could have done better. And I was kind of hoping, because, you know, in the YouTube realm, and I want to make sure I keep the motives right on this, because I don't want to keep on bringing up YouTube necessarily and like money about it. But, you know, one video can blow you up, right? Just one video can blow you up.
Absolutely.
And at the time, you know, there's a lot of the charitable videos out there, you know, so, and it's probably due a lot to my lack of that type of stuff, but I was hoping for that for him. I was so hoping for that for him. And then what happened is I sent that initial donation in, and then I just didn't, that video it just didn't happen with that video. So he didn't get very much more I mean, we're talking like less than $5 more. So that was kind of a sad time for me. But I mean, you know, God is amazing, because
that's what
I mean, I thought $200 was a feat, man. I really did. I was like, man, what a feat that is. And it came from somebody across the street, you know, that was just like, hey, what are you doing? You know, and I'm like, well, I'm mowing this lawn and this is why. And she's like, well, hold on just a minute. And she comes out and brings me, you know, I forget how much it is. I think it was actually over $100. And I was like, that is just the sweetest thing I've ever. She doesn't know him. She just heard his story. And I'm like, okay, man, man, please, Father, use this, do this. But, you know, I don't want to look at that video as a failure at all.
No,
because
it's definitely not.
It's not. Yeah, it's not even about like sending money to people. It's about just the caring about people, and just having them know that, because hope in your heart can go a long way, you know, and just I mean, they say the thought that counts, and sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. But when you have a lifestyle of thinking about other people, it does count.
Yeah.
You
God's
know,
still working
and
on him through his story, and he's just not ready yet for his suffering to be over with, or his the lesson that we're learning through him, and I learned it through your channel. The lesson's still out there. People are still learning through him. And maybe he's still got something to teach people, or he's still got something to learn himself. So it's truly a blessing just to be able to share his story. Like we said, 20 years ago, the opportunity of sharing it. If you weren't local, you'd never know it. You'd have never heard about it. And it's just,
right.
yeah, you know, I don't know. It was just gorgeous. So what's up with you in life, and what's kind of your backstory then? Like you briefly touched into it, but what's like your real story, not the YouTube story, but like your life story? Who are you?
Okay. I'll try to keep it brief, because I'm 45 years old.
Take your time. Take your time.
Now, I live in Oklahoma now, but I was raised in the St. Louis area on the Illinois side of the river. So there's East St. Louis. A lot of people know East St. Louis, at least from my generation, from Clark Griswold's, where he got his wheel stolen. You remember that? He's asking for directions, and meanwhile somebody's stealing his tires.
There you go.
Yeah. But I was actually the town over from East St. Louis, but that's where I grew up. And I come from a split home. You know, early. I was about 5 when my parents split. And, you know, home life was a little rough.
Right.
It was a little rough. My mom didn't have the best taste in men at that time. I got a great stepdad now, but so life was kind of rough. I kind of bounced between my home and my grandma's house, depending on how things were going. And then I joined the Air Force at 20 is what happened. So then I kind of did the Air Force thing, and that's how I got to Oklahoma.
Who were you in high school? Like, was you the jock that was beating up all the dorks like me, or who?
Oh shoot, man!
Who
You know that ain't true. Even if I wanted to be that guy, man, it's just the physique isn't there. No, man, I was the nobody. I was the guy that was purposely trying not to know anybody.
Really? Well,
yeah.
In the Odyssey, Odysseus said nobody stabbed his eye out. So, I mean, and I don't know if you've ever read the Odyssey, but that's nobody can do a lot of damage. So, I don't know.
They can.
I don't like to turn nobody, but so you're just kind of like the quiet, reserved guy then, just doing your thing. sitting
Yeah,
back.
and a lot of that came from insecurities, because like I said, home life wasn't very good.
Right.
So it came from, I had a lot of insecurities, and there are some other, I'll just call them maturity issues, because I think it probably gross people out if I talk too much about this. But I had some maturity issues, and it created a lot of insecurities in me. And it's just like, man, it was just, life was embarrassing for me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, high
It was,
school and life at that age is a wicked place, especially around that age of, 15 to 17. Your world feels like,
yeah.
but looking back at it, it seems so silly. But at the time, I remember I used to write little silly poems, and I was a weird kid that would like read Jim Morrison poems and Kurt
Hmm.
Cobain and listen to weird grungy music, grew my hair out, and I was a
Yeah.
weirdo, but so I think we all have little weird stories, and then, gosh, yeah, I kind of miss that age. Anyway, so you joined the
Yeah.
military. Did you do that as
Hmm.
like was your family ever in? Did you come from like a military style background, grandpa, grandma, or anybody in there in the military,
Yeah.
or what inspired you to
Yeah.
join the Air Force?
I was in the Air Force, and I'm the only one in my family that joined the Air Force, and I did that
Wow.
because my dad was in the Navy,
Okay.
and I wasn't. My dad was out of the Navy before I was born, so I wasn't a military brat, but I lived in a military community. But my dad was in the Navy. My uncle's in the Army. I had another uncle that was a Marine, and I had a brother that was a Marine.
Wow.
And what had happened was I had an ultimatum to go in the military, and um, so I went to all of them and I said, okay, I'm going to the military. So which branch? What do you think? And every single one of them said Air Force. I
Really?
said, that settles that.
Yeah.
So I'm going there. But what happened? I said it was an ultimatum because I was really irresponsible as a kid, and I was driving a car without insurance, and
Uh-oh.
I got in an accident, and it was a pile up, and I got all the blame.
So you had some debts on you then.
Yeah, I had some debt on me, and the insurance company, I was paying too slow. I was, because they can't get blood from a turnip, right? I'm working like 3 minimum wage jobs,
Wow.
you know,
I
and
bet that was definitely a life lesson that,
it
you could have
was.
left the house 5 minutes earlier or 5 minutes later, but God pushed you to go that way so you can see, you can learn a lesson the hard way at that time. That's truly a blessing. I bet you put that in your pocket and learn that one the rest of your life to kind of.
Oh yeah, you better believe, man. I find somebody that's driving around without insurance, I'm like, you better get right.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay. So you're in the Air Force. You jump in the Air Force. What's kind of your ambitions?
I wanted to be a vehicle mechanic because I worked at Jiffy Lube for a little bit,
Mm,
changing oil, as if that's, any kind of, well,
yeah.
it's maintenance, but it's not mechanicing. And I was like, man, I'd really enjoy that, because you got to pick a job,
Right.
Well, I didn't qualify for all the smarty pants jobs. So, so I was like, I want to be a mechanic. So lo and behold, I actually got to be a vehicle mechanic for my first 9.5 years. And I was active duty, and I went around I went to North Dakota first, then I went to Korea, then Germany, and then to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. And so then I did 9.5 years. And then I was like, the glove don't fit anymore. I'm getting out. And I wanted to make a clean break of it. I didn't want to go any further at all. And I met with the reserve recruiter, because you have to get out. At least at this base, you had to, in order to leave, you had to meet with the reserve recruiter. And again, I was an easy sale. I was dead set against it. I was like, no way, glove don't fit no more. I'm out of here. I'm just here. Just check my box, please. And he
Right.
goes, okay, that's fine. He's like, you got any plans, or, you got a job or something? I was like,
Uh-oh.
no. Again, I was like, where do I sign? So I became a reservist, an Air Force reservist, for the rest of my time. I ended up retiring in 2016.
So, you didn't have to go to Iraq and all that other stuff?
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
You
Yep.
did
I
say
went to Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the Arab Emirates. Do you know
so you
where
were
that's at?
all over the globe then.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a couple places I missed, but it was fun.
Yeah, that definitely sounds fun. So you leave the Air Force. I bet you can go on for days about military stories, but for the
Oh my
sake.
gosh. I don't want to repeat half of them.
Right, yeah. I hear some stories. I follow some guys in podcasts and listen to some of the military stuff, and those, yeah, they get pretty wild. So in 2016, you get out, you find you a job, and where you at? You married at this time, or?
Yeah, I married my wife in 2008.
You was in the
And
military too?
okay, she wasn't.
Okay.
She was local here, and I met her here, which kind of a crazy story how I met my wife, if we got time.
We got time.
She, when I signed into my unit here, you know, I'm saying, hey, you know, I'm here, you know, sign me in. I get this tap on my shoulder, right? And I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, why is somebody tapping me on my shoulder? So I look around, it's one of my old high school buddies.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome.
I was like, I'll be darned. So he was in my same unit with me, and he married a local girl. Well, his wife went to college with my wife.
Uh-oh.
So they set us up on a date, on a blind. It was one of the secret things.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, this isn't really a date. Why don't you come over to the house for a barbecue?
I love
And it
that
was just
story.
me and my wife. And his wife was like, they're never going to work, you know, because she knew me for the time that she knew me. My high school friend was like, oh, they're perfect for each other.
Right.
Because he knew me from another, because in high school, actually in junior high, I had a short stint where I was just like absolutely in love with Jesus.
Right.
And then I turned away.
Oh, okay.
I never denied him, but I turned away and did my own thing. You know that, right? You know,
Yeah.
you know that story. We've all got that story.
Yep.
And so he had that perspective of me. She had another one. Well, my wife at the time, she was making a turn towards Jesus. So he saw an opportunity, and she's like, that ain't never going to work, because I was living way different. So we got hooked up, and lo and behold, no sparks at all. But then I started hanging out with her a little bit. You know, we'd hang out with our friends and stuff. We had mutual friends now. So we started hanging out. I was like, man, I kind of do like this girl, you know, but she didn't like me. So I chased her for about a year and a half. And then she admitted that she liked me.
Right.
And then shortly after that, we got engaged, because she's so sweet. You know, girls can be totally romantic, right?
Right.
Like totally, they can be.
Yeah.
My wife is one of those. And she wrote somewhere, she's like, when I said I like you, I meant I will marry you. And like, it was so sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't say it nearly like she does, but
Right.
so she knew she was marrying me at that time. So she made me chase her a year and a half, thinking she didn't like me. And then all of a sudden we're going to get married, which I was totally fine with.
Right.
So, yeah. So but we had a long distance relationship, because I already because I was moving to Knoxville, Tennessee to do some ministry with my buddy. After I'd returned to the Lord, after the Lord was doing work on me, he got my heart focused towards me.
Was you still?
Towards him.
Was you still in the Air Force at this time?
I was.
So you were in Clarksville?
I was.
Was you in Clarksville?
No, I was in Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
Which there isn't an Air Force base there. I mean, there is, but there's a guard base. But I was reservist, so I traveled down to Atlanta, Georgia for my duty.
Oh.
But I followed my mentor to the University of Tennessee, because he asked me. He said, "Hey, would you want to do ministry with me out in Tennessee?" And at the time, I'm thinking there's no possibilities with my wife. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. You know, I mean, because you're at a spot. I mean, when you're done with your old life, there's like a huge void, right? And it's a good thing, because you have an opportunity to be completely focused on what the Lord wants you to do with your life.
Yeah.
So there was no possibility with her, which is great, because it didn't distract me from what he wanted to do with me. And that was move to Tennessee and continue with my mentor, which is interesting, because it's really a horrible experience, but it was a really important time for my walk with the Lord. So really grateful for it. And that was about a year and a half when I moved back to Oklahoma City and we got married.
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's definitely, man, that's a beautiful story. That's truly a beautiful story.
Oh.
So anyway, you come now, you get out of the military, you do your ministry. You still do a ministry now, or you like a youth pastor or anything, or?
No, I never did formal ministry. It was always a lay kind of ministry.
I love the lay apostleship. You know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm sold on it, because, you know, churches can get it wrong too. You know, they can get it wrong. And I don't mean to say that. And I'm not saying they intentionally get it wrong, but, you know, they can.
Yeah.
You know, so I've never been a fan of like tying myself, you know, my job and my ministry together.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because that's a good point, because there's a couple guys that I follow their story. They're like evangelical, evangelical people, whether it's the Billy Graham-esque people, them
yeah,
kind of guys that
yeah,
go, they're professional speakers. But at what point does it become a job? And what point is it,
yeah,
are you an on fire Christian, or whatever? Like at what?
yeah.
And then I see a lot of, I was listening to like I was telling you, Rick Burgess, he was reading a book, Finishing Strong by Zach, no, not something Farrar. I can't remember who wrote the book, but it was a great book
Mhm.
called Finishing Strong. And he was talking about, like, in 1943 or 45, Billy Graham came in and he named off a couple other preachers. And Billy Graham was the lowest ranked evangelist at the time. They didn't think he was going to amount to nothing. And
Yeah,
now, no matter who you are in America, if you're above the age of 25, you know who Billy Graham is.
that's right.
He's touched so many people, and it's just how you finish strong. And he said so many people in this book, so many people, like, just it became their job. And then once they stopped, they didn't have the word on fire. You know what I mean? It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
passion. There was no angel in the whirlwind just
yeah,
whipping them into shape.
yeah.
So yeah, I see exactly what you're saying there. That's
Mhm.
smart to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so you're doing your thing. You got a wife. You're 26 or 2016. You got a wife. You've done a couple things around the world. You come back from Tennessee. You got children at this time then?
No, not yet. That was a it's funny, it's just going from one thing to another because we had trouble having kids.
Oh,
Um not as much as a lot of people. So I don't want to be like, oh, it was so terrible. But when you're going through something, you don't know how long something's going to last, right?
true.
But in your mind you're like, this is going to be forever. This is just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of deflating. So, but we had a little, we didn't get pregnant right off the bat, like we thought we could, possibly. We're like, there's nothing wrong with us. We should have no problem, right? We can plan this out, right?
Yeah.
So we were married for 3 years before, let's see here, my daughter was born in 2011. So we were married 3 years before I had my daughter, but we started trying a year after we got married.
Wow.
So we had a couple years. Well, I say a couple years. There was obviously the pregnancy, 9 months, couple years
Yeah.
minus 9 months, where it's like month after month. It's like you think you're going to get pregnant, and I can tell a little bit about my testimony in this part because it's
Wow.
like you spend a lot of time trying not to get pregnant.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
because so when you get married, you're like, oh, great. Now there's permission here. Now it's something we want. And you think it's going to happen right off the bat because, at times, you're a little scared that you're going to get pregnant because you think it's, one wrong move and it's going to happen.
Right.
Well, that's not the way it happens for everybody, So we had some trouble with that. And then, but Kristen got pregnant and the pregnancy was great the whole time. But then, let's see here, the last month of her pregnancy, she was having really bad belly aches and we couldn't figure out why. So we go to the emergency room like, oh, it must be like contractions or something like that. But they weren't. She had a bowel obstruction while she was pregnant with my daughter. So we went in the hospital and we were in hospital for a month and it only took about a week dealing with pain. And it pushed my wife into a depression. A hopeless depression. Like she was saying things was like, I'm never going to leave this hospital. I was like, why would you think that? Like in my brain, I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
that's not real.
Yeah.
And she believed it with all of her heart, So we had that time and it was interesting because you spend all that time trying to get pregnant and then you go in the hospital, and you can't, you feel like you're kind of robbed a little bit of things that you thought you were entitled to. But the thing that we kind of realized in there was that, we're not entitled to anything, we're not entitled to anything. And this was an opportunity, something that the Lord taught us through this was like suffering. We ought not waste our suffering, like
Yeah.
you can feel sorry for yourself and you can think, oh man, this is like the worst place on the planet. This is like the worst time of my life if you want. But if you stay there, you're just wasting that suffering and it's going to be without purpose. And you're always going to look back on that time and you're going to say, that was the worst time of my life, which, obviously there's bad things about it. Or you can say, you know what, there's a purpose in this pain, and I'm going to go through this and I'm going to suffer well for the name of Christ. And even though my wife wasn't always got the happy face or anything like that, even though she's in pain, it was amazing what the Lord did through some of those nurses, or did in some of those nurses, because we took that position. It was like, we're not wasting this. It sucks, but we're not going to waste it. And that's a time we look back on, and it was such a sweet time. And then it lasted afterwards too. It lasted for probably 2 years after my wife was dealing with depression. And as a husband, I'm irrational depression, not just I'm sad.
Right.
And as a husband, that's a difficult thing because you need to fix things and you can't. That was what was irrational in my brain, is because it's like, my wife is suffering, there's nothing I can do about it. So that was another growing opportunity, because I was like, I need to give that to you too, Lord. Like,
Yeah.
When she's not asking for nothing, and there's nothing you feel like you can do, and all you can do is take it to the Father and put it in his hands, that's actually a really sweet place to be. It's not a fun place, but it's a sweet place.
Yeah. Suffering. Yeah. I blamed I blamed everybody for my suffering except myself. Like, I blamed all the way up to God. It was all his fault. It was all my family's fault. It was all my background. Horrible. But it wasn't until, like, I just said, I am a worthless, wretched person. And without God, I'm going to turn back to drugs no matter what happens. I'm not a good person. So I realized I couldn't do it alone. I'm just not. Maybe some people out there, I don't know. I don't know anybody else's story. I don't know what they're good at or whatever. But I know exactly what kind of depression. There was times I wouldn't get out of bed, but also I was a person. I had to learn these on my own. I didn't have the blessing of growing up in a religious household. So I didn't know I could turn over uh my suffering. I didn't know there was a meaning to it. I didn't know that it was truly like, look at Paul. When Paul was suffering right before he got a head cut off, like, he just, like, you know what I mean? He all the way up. He was just happy in his suffering, sitting in a prison cell, just writing to everybody, telling them how thankful he is. And it's just like, when he said, pick up your cross daily, bear the yoke. I don't know. I know exactly what you're talking about, because I've been through there and I ignored everything, and I never offered anything up to God, and God just said, "You keep your sins then. Offer them to me, or you can keep them." Well, I kept them for as long as I could, and I just couldn't do it no more, because I look at all the guys that I ran with, especially in my time and all through my 20s. I was a worthless drug addict, and I say that as in, like, not trying to talk about anybody who's in active addiction that needs help. I look at it through myself, and it's just because I knew it was wrong. I knew, and I hated it every day. People say, "Why don't you?" This is what I talked about when I was talking about the book of Jonah, and it was like, I knew it was wrong. I knew my world was falling in around me, and I knew all I had to do was quit. But it's like, I I could have easier. It wa- it's so easy to say until you're in that, until you can offer
I
it up,
know.
learn the lessons from it. You know what I mean? So we talking about that depression, and after I got clean, I thought life's gonna be great here. And it wasn't. I would just lay in bed for months on end and staying in my mom's basement. Had no kind of ambition. She's like, "What?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't want. I got her. I'd just rather be dead than just lay here in bed and stare at a wall all day." And then that's when I started to learn, and things like that. So I know exactly what you guys are talking about. And not that everybody's suffering is different, but I can understand. I can definitely understand. So after everything comes around, when did you start your business? What made you even start business? Like, what you get out of the military and you just decide, I want to part-time cut grass or what, or treat lawn? How did that even happen?
That goes to my second son, or not my second son, my second kid, my son. And my wife never saw herself as a stay-at-home mom until my boy was born.
I was gonna say you were.
So
Oh, I'm
yeah,
not gonna
you
say
know.
that 'cause
So I had kind of, she's been throwing around the idea of quitting her job, for quite a while. And, and but she never took it serious. She's just like, that's just not who I am. I'm a working mom, and that's just the way it's going to be. Well, her heart started turning when my boy came around, and we had lived in the same house. I think he was born 2014. Yeah, 2014 is when he was born. So we've been married for 6 years now. When my son came along, and I'm taking care of my lawn, and I love my lawn. It's the best lawn ever. It's small, it's cheap to take care of. It's just beautiful. And, there's a part that the Lord worked on me on that too, because I think I had some pride that I had to deal with in that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because you look at other people's lawns, and it's like, why can't your lawn be as good as mine? And I'm mowing it like 3 times a week, fertilizing every month.
What made you learn fertilize? Did you grow up with the fertilized yard, or like
My dad. Now, I didn't grow up with my dad, keep in mind, but one thing I did remember from my dad, from when they were married, is my dad always had a great lawn, always.
that's
And
I love the
mhm.
pride behind it, man. I truly do.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have pride, but man, I was going to a
Uh,
dark place for me, because I was looking at other people and shaming them in my heart,
yeah. So you were just
But
you had your house, and you just
yeah,
wanted to take care of your house then.
yeah, I wanted to do that, but then my wife wanted to quit work. So and she had a pretty decent income. It was pretty good, and I had a pretty good job at the time. So I was like, this could be possible. But after we were like doing the numbers, the home economics stuff, we realized, I was like, okay, we can do this, but we got to save more money, and I definitely got to make more money.
Right.
So I did I did the numbers, and I was like, all I need is 8 lawns. That's all I need, and we will be in the same financial position that we were before. That's all I need. Because we're going to save childcare now, because we're thinking like, man, childcare is expensive. So had a lot of help there. So I said, okay, babe. I said, we can do 1 of 2 things. If I got to make more money, that means I'm going to be working more. I don't have that option, where I'm working now. So this is going to mean a second job. So do you want me to go work for someone else, and they tell me when I'm going to work? Or do you want me to start a lawn business,
So
and I'll say when I work?
you already knew, you kind of in the back of your head, you knew you wanted to mow grass, going back from watching some YouTube videos and manicuring your own lawn. So you already knew that there's money to be made. And you probably looked around your neighbors' yards and said, man, if I did what from my yard to their yard, I can charge them that. And
Oh
so you
man,
already had the idea.
I didn't even start watching lawn care videos until I decided I was going to start the business.
Oh, okay.
So I was doing my lawn on my own, and having some success with it, just with like Scott's like weed and feed. I
Okay.
put that on there every 30 days, and I mowed it 3 times a week. That's literally all I did. And I had a little 21-inch Troy built mower. It was like a 149cc one, like super underpowered for anything, right? But I
Yeah.
was
I
mowing
used
it
to
3 times
paint
a week,
them.
so it was cool.
Yeah. I used to paint them
Yeah.
walk behinds at MTD. I hated them. And hang 6 of them on a rack, and you try to paint them. Yeah. Anyway, I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had a curve shaft Boland's weed eater, and I didn't even have to have a blower, because not that much, there wasn't enough grass to blow off
That's
when I
awesome.
mowed,
That's awesome.
So what happened was, I was like, man, it takes me like literally like 10 minutes to mow my lawn. So then I'm watching Geek to Freak, right? And I'm like, oh, I can do this. I can do this, yo. I'm like, I'm not even sweating when I'm done with my lawn.
Right.
So you can imagine I was in for a pretty big surprise.
Oh, no doubt. So
Yeah,
so how'd you start selling your accounts?
door to door, man. I started knocking
Really?
on doors. Yep. And I can't remember if I took a day off work. I can't remember or what, but I was like, well, I got to drum this up pretty quick. So I start knocking on doors, and which I don't do that anymore, but
Well, what do you think, real quick before we jump in, what do you think about door to door for the new guy?
uh, I think it can be effective in that you can get work that way.
Yeah.
And I got work that way. I got all 8 of my lawns that way. But what happened was I went and knocked on a door, and somebody actually sent me over there. It was a husband. He caught me on the side of the road. He said, "Hey, I need you to go over to my house. And, when you're done, give me a bid on mine." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." Well, I went and I knocked on their door, but he wasn't there. His wife was, with screaming kids behind that door.
Right.
And she answers that door. I don't know why she did that, but she answered that door and she's got kids like this, just screaming in her face.
Last thing
And
she
I'm like,
wants. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I am so sorry. So then I get done with that day right then and there, because I'm like, I'm not knocking another door, because I have no idea what's going on behind that thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So then I go home, and my wife is like totally like losing her brain. And I'm trying to be a good husband. I'm listening to her, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? She's like, well, this happened. I'm having this kind of day. And then I hear somebody knocking on my door.
Uh-oh.
It wasn't me,
Right.
obviously. But I was like, never knocking on another door in my life.
Yeah. See,
But
that's
so it's
so true.
effective, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and I'm ki I've done it before, and I've even got to the I even had, like, a little script where I'd go up and I'd say, "Hey, I'm doing some work over here. I hate door-to-door salesmen. I'm just trying to grow my business. I'm out of here,"
Yeah.
But it was a lie, and it was a script I wrote
Mhm.
up, and I never felt good about it. I felt dirty, I felt icky, but I
Yeah.
understand why you do it. Not you, but I understand why you as the new person, you as in the guys
Yeah.
watching, you as in me.
Yeah.
I understand why
Well,
it gets done.
it's free too. It
Right.
costs you no money. It just costs you time. And when you're first starting your business, at least a lot of us, probably the majority of us, I kind of feel like I'm kind of fitting in that, the larger majority of the people that are starting lawn care business. You're like, hey, I'll just use my stuff. I'll just, hit stuff up in my neighborhood, so I ain't got to go far, that type of stuff. And you just don't have the money. You don't have the capital, to go out there, and you got to grow it. You got to grow it from what you got. And, but that's just the way it is. And you learn, and some people might still do it. But honestly, when was the last time you saw a lawn care door knocker?
It's it's been a long time. The last time I even did it was 2 years ago, and I've never had someone do it to where I live. I don't even get Jehovah's Witness at my house. So I'm pretty so I have no one
Okay.
comes and knocks on my door. Sometimes I wish someone would come hang out, but no, I know what you mean. What do you
Yeah.
think about door hangers? I always felt weird about door hangers as well. I felt like I violated I would hang my door hangers on mailboxes, and then I had people comment on my videos saying
Yeah.
that's illegal, this and that. I didn't put them in. I just put them on the little flyer or
Right.
on the lip of it because I never felt comfortable going up on their. I always felt like I was invading somebody's privacy.
Hmm.
Your home is your castle. I just always felt icky. I never liked, but I get it at the same time, and I've done
Yeah.
it. I've done it. I did it, and
Hmm.
I've done it, and I didn't like either one. But what's your kind of thoughts on it? Because it has to be done.
I think it can be marginal on the payoff. And I think this might be somewhat regional, but what happens in my area, like now we got tens of thousands of houses right in this area. Like we're super dense. And that's why I chose to do it here.
Right.
Or one of the reasons why I chose to do it here. But what I found is people drive in the garage and they may never go through their front door.
Yeah, that's a great point too. There's a lot of nice. Yeah, you're absolutely right because you see the patio that runs around. Or I
Hmm.
don't ever use my front door other than maybe let my dog out or something. Maybe every now and again open a door, get some sunlight in. I don't ever use my front door ever.
Hmm.
And the
Yeah.
reality of people using their front door is very slim. Anytime I've ever went to somebody's house, use a side door, use a back door. You don't use a front door.
Right.
Half the time pizza guys
Yep.
don't even go to the front door.
I know.
If they're a
I
pizza guy
know.
worth their salt or that's around there. So
Yeah.
I don't like it. And the reason I ask is you've been in business for a minute. You know a lot of guys in the industry, especially on the YouTube side. What do you think is maybe some of the best organic? Um, do you think Facebook maybe is the only way? Because Facebook seems to be dying.
Yeah, I'm trying new things is what I'm doing, and part of it is because um, for 7 years I've been a solo guy, and this year I'm hiring. I'm hiring 2 people this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Hmm.
That's a big step,
And
man.
It is. It's a huge step, as I'm finding out. I mean, I've always known it's a big step, but man, it's expensive.
Yeah.
To legit hire somebody, not 1099 them, but like
Yeah.
run a payroll, workman's comp, paying their taxes. I mean, it's expensive. And so, but I'm not full time. I thought I was going to go full time this year because of coronavirus. And can we talk a little bit about that? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
no, coronavirus is what helped get me fall on my face and run my business to the ground. So yeah, I hate the virus. So yeah, we can talk about
Okay.
talk about all you want.
All right. Well, I work on an Air Force base right now, driving a fuel truck. That's my full time gig. So when Biden came out with the executive order of the mandated vaccines for both civil service and contractors, I don't do vaccines.
Right.
So my job's in jeopardy. And there's a big long story to that. And we can talk about that now or another time. But basically the gist of it was I was preparing to not have my job anymore.
Right.
So
And that's a
I was
hard,
like,
well, I'm gonna stop you real quick because that's a hard choice that a lot of people have to make. We had a mask mandate where I work at, and I got my shot because whatever. It's just me, and I get flack all the time for that. I don't care. But I love the fact that you stood for your convictions, and it's not for you. Well, I work in a private factory, and we have a mask mandate, and they were about to implement. Now I got paid $350 to get my shot. That could have been an incentive. I don't know, but they offered
wow.
us. Yeah, and I said, okay, I'll do it. But they were offering people $350 and a mask mandate. So we had to wear a mask all the way up until like last week. But they
Yeah,
never
same with
implemented
me.
the mandate for the shot. They never did that. It was a private company. But it's just there were so many people that had never, how do I explain this? Is people in a factory that are, we call them lifers, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I know I can make business elsewhere. These are lessons that I
Right.
learned a couple years ago. I documented on the channel. You guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. But I learned that falling on my face multiple times, how to make money outside of a factory. I know I can bounce back if God
Right.
forbid something happened at the factory. But there were so many people, I seen the fear on their face when this first started coming in. Because I came in late back into the factory after I moved here and all that other stuff. And I was like, wow, there's so many people scared to death. There's so many, they have no idea how to make an income. They've never went
That's
out
right.
and knocked doors, or they have no
That's right.
idea what an LLC is. And I got so wrapped up in the small business world, talking to people like you, to where we would complain about only making, whatever dollars. But like we're talking about people that will make $0. They would have a
Right.
cough. People would get sick at work, not sick, but have a cough or a sneeze, and you'd get sent home. You have to lock down for 14 days. It,
Right.
and like them guys dealt with it, and I was like, oh man, like it was, so I know what you're saying. So yeah, go ahead, you're
Yeah.
back on the Air Force Base, and they send some rules down from on high.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to kind of extend on that, I also had people at work that were the same way. And they just didn't believe in themselves, but because, guys like you and me, people have done it over and over again. It's, starting a business is not as hard as people think. I mean, working a business can be kind of hard, but
Yeah.
just getting going, I'm taking those first couple steps, and just, it doesn't take long, to where you realize I can really do this. I can do this. And yeah, we had folks that had fear because they're like, what in the heck am I going to do? We had a guy going through a divorce. He's like, I can't lose my job yet. I might lose my kids too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a really bad situation. So I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful that the Lord has directed my steps in this way, because I wasn't thinking about coronavirus when I started the business.
Yeah.
That's not what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But he directed my steps, I believe, and has kind of set my way, to for my good, and so that's what I was doing. I was preparing to lose my job, so I was like, okay, full-time lawn care it is, and so I started preparing. I was like, I got to hire people. That's what's happening, and then lo and behold, the requirement gets dropped, and I'm like,
Wow.
well, what do I do now? Like, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to keep on hiring. I guess I'm going to hire people, and maybe I won't mow as much.
So you're not doing just see, I thought you were doing like just spraying lawns. I didn't realize you were
Yeah.
mowing weekly accounts as well.
Yeah, I was spraying, but when I realized that I had to hire people, just being in the military. I mean, I've trained. I was about to say a really ridiculous number that wasn't true, but I trained a number of people. And training is not the easiest thing to do. So if you can simplify things, that's better. Simplify things in the beginning, and then grow, hope, let the person mature and grow into their role. And then maybe you can do other things. Well, so I was doing, basically everything. If you wanted me to aerate your lawn, I'd aerate it. If you wanted me to spray your lawn, I'd spray it. If you want me to mow it, trim bushes, whatever. The only thing I didn't do trees, because I'm scared of heights, so I don't do trees.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I know exactly what you're saying. I'm in the process of, like I said, I moved to a different state, and I'm kind of restarting everything, revamping the YouTube channel, and I'm slowly building a business this time. I'm back in factory, which is good about my factory is I work 7 12-hour days, and then I'm off for 7 days, which sucks for the 84 hours or whatever it is.
Yes.
But it's awesome to have the 7 days off. So instead of doing weekly mowing, which I'll pick up maybe some accounts I can do like 9 days, 10 days, 7, 8 days, somewhere around that. But I'm not really focused on that. I'm really focused on slowly building this time instead of going face first, more soft wash, pressure wash, stuff that's kind of like low overhead. Risk management is so low to where I can schedule it out. I can get it done quick. You can go in, spray some bleach, get a driveway done quick, still make really good money. Now the reoccurring work isn't there. So I'm gonna have to I'm in the process of kind of finding a new name and building a new website. So I'm gonna start talking about more SEO work and Facebook stuff, but new guys, they probably won't know what any of that marketing strategy is. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Just simplifying everything. You know what I mean? But mowing is great. Mowing's great. Most people know how to do it for the most part. Except running a weed eater, I found hard to find good help that know how to run a weed eater.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I mean, and I think about that too. And that was one of my strategies, is because I was like, man, we've heard this before. Well, it's just mowing. Like anybody can do it, right? And it's like, well, obviously anybody can't do it because people get hired and fired all the time from that job. So that's true. So when you hire people, I really wanted to focus time on them. And I know this isn't quite necessarily for the brand new guy, but you got a question coming up eventually about my piece of advice is kind of relative. Is for the new guy, like it's better to keep it simple because it's less to manage, So when you're taking on people for the first time, people are very complex. Yeah. So especially when you don't know if they're going to work out or not. So you're going to hire somebody, you're marketing, you're trying to get in work so you can keep paying them, so you're not just better off just doing a solo. So you get the work, but then what if they don't work out? Well, now you have to do all that work.
Yeah.
Or you're in a pinch to find somebody else. So you get in this weird cycle. This is what I'm forecasting because I haven't gone through this yet. This is just what I'm forecasting.
Smart.
Is that it would be really easy to get stuck in this cycle of kind of desperate for employees, and you kind of you'll take anybody. So I figured it's better to just simplify it. I'm just going to do a few things that most people should be able to pick up on fairly quickly. And then if they stick around long enough, and I can sell a service, then maybe I'll expand the business at that time. So at this time, I'm just doing mowing, bushes, mulch, and cleanups. Beautiful. That's it.
Beautiful.
Everything else is a no.
Yeah. It's hard. Well, you've been in business long enough to where you're prepared to probably walk away from someone if you get red flags, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
You're prepared to have you probably have standards in your business and different things to where if you don't feel like a client's going to fit, you're just going to say, okay, this isn't we're not going to work out. You're going to break up with the client. That was one thing that I really, really struggled with. I would find myself being totally miserable, and it reflected. I was going back watching some of my old videos, and it really reflected in a couple of clients that I had prior, my last venture. And I would go and I hated it and I didn't want them, but I thought I needed to take on every dollar, everything. And I didn't need it. And I realized this message part is more towards the new guys. find your target demographic, if you will, know the client that you want, or know the clients you're going to have the crappy yards no matter what. Take all the money you can in the beginning because you need the money. But the time that you're there, you're wasting time from going and finding someone. Or if you got red
That's right.
flags, just don't be afraid to walk away, because it's going to take time for you as the new guy to build the confidence to even know what you're talking about. You might know how to do
That's
all the
right.
work, but you don't know how to sell the work. You got
That's
anything
right.
to add to it? Because most people
Yes.
are scared to walk away from a job.
Yeah, and that's happened to me. I think all of us have probably gone through that. It's like, man, I mean, the freak would have called it a pita lawn, you know.
Yeah.
We've all taken those lawns, and sometimes you don't even know if a lawn's going to be that way. I mean, you get better at looking at the lawns and you're like, okay, that's going to be terrible. I'm not going to want to do that. But especially in the beginning, it's almost inevitable. You're going to take lawns that you're not going to enjoy doing, and and you're going to wish that you didn't have them. They're still paying you, but you're just going to wish you didn't have them because you just dread going to it.
Yeah.
And that's no different than your 40-hour a week job that, I mean, that's most people are unsatisfied. That's just a fact. Most
Yeah.
people are unsatisfied with their employment. You don't want your business to look like that. Otherwise, you might as well just go work for someone else.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
opinion.
Absolutely. I have a lot of guys that kind of get aggravated with me at the factory I work at because, they see my videos and I'm cheery when I leave work. I'm still cheery when I come into work. Then they see me pressure washing and doing stuff that they hate to do around their house, mowing grass, running a weed eater, running blowers, cheery, yelling into a camera, blah, blah, and they're like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm just like, they're like, "You actually like it here?" I'm like, "No, I hate working here." I said, "But I love you guys." And I said,
Yeah.
what I told you, what I told my buddy the other day, Brad, I told him, I was like, dude, you don't understand. I said, I get 7 days off. I'm still making money no matter what. So I'm building something outside of here. This isn't the end of the road for me. I said,
Yeah.
this right here is just a stopping place. I'm just hanging out with you guys, having a good time. This is going to be my insurance and line of credit, proof of credit. So I'm just using this place. So it's like, I hate it. It's miserable, but there's nothing I can do about it. I need to come
Right.
here, and I enjoy you guys. And he was just like, "You're a nut job. You need to just go away." And I was too cheery for him in the morning. Coffee was too strong, I guess, that morning. And that's kind of attitude. I look at opportunity a lot different. They're like, "Well, why don't you do this or do that in your business?" Everybody who isn't a
Yeah.
business owner or doesn't have a business, they all have
Yeah.
ideas for business. And I'm like, that doesn't add up with the numbers, doesn't really work for me. Everybody looks
Yeah.
at capitalism and business as like Walmart or something. And I'm like, no,
Right.
dude, like it's not like that. Does any of that make sense of what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that because that happens so much to me now. I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years now, 7 seasons, I should say, and I still go to work, and all the guys, they want to give me advice on YouTube channel. They've never built a YouTube channel.
Right.
They want to give me lawn care advice. They've never built a lawn care business. They never built any business. So and you're going to get a lot of advice, or people, just starting out, they're going to get a lot of advice, and it's so important just to be able to say, what, I'm not going to do that, and
Yeah.
it's okay.
It's okay. And there's nothing wrong with it. And a lot of time I was compelled, and whenever I first started my business, I was compelled. I felt like I needed to hurry up and go full time into business because I was
Yeah.
creating content, and it felt like at the time, 2019 era on Lawncare YouTube, the big thing was know your worth, and it was know your worth and just go full time. That was like the big message
Mhm.
from the big channels was coming down from on high is what it felt like. So
Yeah.
I was a guy watching it, and I barely knew how to run a weed eater, and I never even used a blower, let alone a backpack blower at this time. I had no idea. I used a broom, and I thought that's what you used. I didn't know, you know what I mean? So once I was like, okay, well, my ego. My point is my ego. So for the new guys, don't let your ego get in your way.
Yeah.
Go work your factory job. Enjoy it. It's a blessing. You have steady income no matter what. Use that as an opportunity to, to build your business, or to be what I'm doing it for is I'm being picky with people. I won't just go pressure wash,
Right.
well, right now I'm kind of doing some stuff for YouTube, but for the most part, I don't like just going and pressure washing just somebody's place. If their
Right.
house is filthy, but they only want their driveway done and they don't want to look, my name's on this, you know, I'm not, no, it's not going to work for me, which I'm kind of lenient right now because, you know, I ain't got my shirts made. My truck's not labeled up yet or nothing. So I
Yeah.
can kind of hide. But at the end of the day, especially when I get my business going, if you don't want, if you don't want the work that I want for your house, it's not an upsell. I'm not trying to upsell, but the least
Right.
I'm going to do is your house and I'm not going to walk away and your house look like filth. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Neighbor
Yeah.
across the street sees that. I'm not getting that. No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So,
But the thing about it is there's people that will do it, you
right.
know,
Yeah.
and it's okay if you're not their guy.
Right.
That's okay.
Perfectly fine.
You
I
know,
totally agree.
somebody will do it, but I'm not that guy.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
thanks for the,
speaking of the other guys, I was arguing in a comment section the other day, which is a beautiful place to argue. Is some new guy was like, "Yeah, but you don't understand. I got all these competitors in my area," and I'm like, "Stop right there. They're not your competitors. They're going through the same struggle. Everybody's got a yard. There's grass everywhere. You can't cut it all." I said, "You're gonna get if you meet this guy, and this guy he just couldn't pick up what I was saying." I was like, these aren't your competitors. They're struggling just the same as you. You're willing to do jobs that they don't want to do, and you're not going to do jobs that maybe they're going to do. I've gotten more work by talking to other lawn care guys in my area, not this area because I'm still new here,
yeah,
but before I got more work working with other lawn care and landscape companies because I was willing to take on some of the crappier jobs that these other guys didn't want to do. And they were
yeah,
happy to kick them my way because they don't want to feel stupid being like, well, you're going to have to call somebody else. So that makes them feel more professional whenever they can say, here, this isn't going to fit for me, but here's a
yeah,
guy I know. It makes them feel like, you know, I'm not going to do it. I don't know. It's just kind of like an ego type, not ego, ego's a bad word, but it's a more professional thing to say, I know a guy, here's his card, or I know a guy here, take this number down. He does a lot. He does a lot of work like this. And I think he'd be a good fit for you. So that way you're not leaving a
right,
client high and dry. If they ever
right,
get into some
right.
money, they know you're more high end. Simple stuff like that. You don't have
Yeah,
competition out there.
yeah. And that's the trick too, is because I've done that too. It's like, man, I got this lawn and I'm just not happy with it. Hey, man. And I just catch a guy. I kind of feel a little bit bad about this because at the time when I did this a couple times, I didn't know that many people in my local area. I knew more
Right.
YouTube people, but not enough people that were actually working in my area. So I'd go over and I'd be like, oh man, I've seen that truck, at least 2 seasons in a row. So he must be doing something kind of right. So I go over and I'm like, hey man, you want another account? Another account? And he'd be like, is it in this neighborhood? And I'd be like, yeah. And he's like, yep.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. Then, we're on, and so, yeah, it's just that, you got to that's one thing I guess you got to nail down is, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but you have to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you,
And it takes a while to get there, you know? So
it does.
for the new guys, use your winners wisely. What do you think of, I've been bouncing this and I'm going to use you as kind of a template for my next like Instagram topic. So what do you think of rate minimums, like free estimate versus like I don't like the idea. I like the idea of free estimates, but everybody does free estimates. I think you can eliminate a lot of tire kickers by just, I don't know. I don't know. What do you know what I'm trying to say? Instead of doing free estimates, charge
Hmm.
like $5, $10 to come to like, I don't know. This is kind of something I'm kicking around in my old noggin to where if they're not willing to pay, and maybe you can tack it on if you get the job. If not, maybe you just eat it. But I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Just because
Yeah,
how much
I've
time
heard
have you
it.
wasted going and checking something out that you
Yeah, that's
know you're
true.
not going to get?
Some of that is going to be down your density, or shrinking the area that you're willing to work in, because I mean, for instance, like I did a bid the other day, and I do free estimates,
Right.
and I went and did a
Yes,
bid,
me
but it
too.
was literally on my way home, like literally. I mean, it took me. I doubt it even took me 10 minutes. She wasn't even there. She even said, she's like, do I even have to be there? You don't even have to be there, you know. So that's cool. But there's other things too that are more complex jobs. Like if you're into like hardscaping, or, if that's the market you're going for, that probably deserves a little bit more time.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I've heard people do, yeah, but usually for just mowing, there's not a whole lot, but there's so many different things you can do to make sure that you still get paid for that. So one of those things, is putting it on the bid, you could do that. But when you have reoccurring mowing, like they just want the rate. Like you can't be like, well, I guess you could. You could be like the first one's 70, and then from here on out it'll be 40. You could do that, but most of the time when at least then when I've heard about doing that, that's because the lawn's usually overgrown. So like, what are you gonna charge $100 that first time? How do you justify that to the customer in that way? So for the simple jobs, I think you can get away. Me personally, I think you can get away with free estimates as long as your service area is small, and it's a relatively simple job. The more complex are probably going to lend themselves to one times, and it's really easy to put in to get paid for that in the estimate.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes a total lot. If I was doing like a landscape, if I was only doing landscape installs, hardscape projects, yeah, I would definitely, or if I was a contractor, like doing service call, like your water line busted, I'm not driving all the way out there to look at a water line for free. I'm coming, I'm bringing some tools, yeah. Okay. That makes a ton of sense, because lawn care, like lawn mowing, yeah, because you can, everybody has free estimates. I'm getting a price over the phone. You can even qualify them over the phone, really, to where.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that if you know your area well enough.
Yeah.
And then even if you misquoted at first, you can like quote it, with like, satellite measuring. And then you can put something in if you have terms and conditions, you can put something in your T&Cs that says, hey, this is an initial quote. But if we get there and it turns out, you got planters all over the place and you want them moved.
Right. There's a difference between quote and an estimate. You brought that up. That's brilliant, because I learned that lesson the hard way, a quote and an estimate, because sometimes you get into a job. Now you got to be careful, and you got to be easy when you sell it and when you explain it, and you can't start on something and then back out. But understand, there's a difference between a quote and an estimate. You're just estimating what it's about to cost, versus a quote is you're saying, here's your quote, here's what I'm going to charge you, versus an estimate. I think it's going to be about this. Let me get out there and like actually dig into it and see where we're at. Now you got to be very clear. I wasn't.
It does. Yeah. Communication is key on that, because when you throw a number out there, that's what they're going to expect. And you can't get too far and away from that.
Right.
So your estimate's it needs to be pretty close.
Right.
So, the other thing too, just to take that another step further, is if you had a client, because this happens to me more than I wished, because I just don't like dealing with it. But you'll bid a lawn, and it'll be somebody, like, let's just say they've lived there for a relatively short time and they've got all these plans for their yard. So you quote it, and let's say they got nothing in the backyard. Well, they decide they want a pool. So they throw in a pool. Are you going to mow for the same price?
Yeah, good question.
Or, they put these obstacles, in your way that slow you down and take time. So next thing you quoted that job, let's just say you're a solo guy, you're going to mow for 30 minutes. So you quote it for whatever your rate is. Let's just call it $1 an hour. Let's just say, well, now all of a sudden it takes you 40 minutes. You're spending 33% more time on property, but you're making the same money at the 30 minutes.
That's really true. That's why I wrote down. I just wrote my little note for topics. Is it's all about saving time. So, and I tied it into my quote versus estimate. And even reoccurring clients. And while we're kind of like on a random topic, Seth the lawn surgeon. This is off the wall. Seth the lawn surgeon. I was watching his Tipsy Talk the other day, and Steph's been in the business for a long time, YouTuber. Good channel. He's a big dude, man. I met him at GIE, great guy. Anyway, he was talking about gas prices and people raising their prices. It's like, well, he was kind of laughing about it. It says, you're gonna lower your prices when gas comes down? Right. And he kind of stared at the camera, and that got me to thinking, everybody on YouTube wants to give the best advice, but it's all about clicks and views. And I get it. It sounds good to say, raise your price, but he is correct when he questions, okay, when gas goes, because it's been to $4 a gallon before, and it's dropped back down to $2 a gallon before. No one dropped their prices back down because gas prices went down. So
that's right.
How do you, and I understand inflation, all that goes up and down. It seems like, I don't know. I'm not a I always joke around and say, I'm not a gynecologist. I don't know. Horrible joke. Horrible joke. But I'm not a smart person. So I was kind of simple. What do you think about with the rate of the gas prices right now, the inflation, 40% of all money was printed in 2019 and all that, all the numbers that people throw out to justify
Yeah.
raising prices. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, man, I want you to know that, man, you are a highly intelligent individual. I
Well,
gotta tell you that, man.
I
You
appreciate
throw that
that.
stuff out there, and I know where that comes from, but even I don't know if you didn't, but I know where that comes from, and I just want to build you up, man. You are a highly intelligent person, man, and it's easy to see that, you know.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm not an economist by no means, and I usually don't
Or a
even pay attention to
gynecologist.
it. Or a gynecologist, any of those. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even stay in a Holiday Inn.
Anyway, back to what do you think of the rate increases and stuff?
Yeah, in one respect, I totally agree with him.
Right.
Because you can't adjust your rate. People in our business where you got reoccurring work, they're budgeting. So just because there's a gas hike that week doesn't necessarily mean it's like, hey, I'm charging you another $3 on your lawn because of gas. Well, I actually thought about that. I don't know. I can't remember. It's somewhere between the first and third year. I was like, man, because everybody's like, oh man, gas, you're just going to go through gas. And I was thinking, man, well, that's got to affect me some way. When I started actually doing the numbers, like the difference between like 10 cents, and I can't remember what numbers I was using at the time, but I was like, okay, what if gas went up this much? How much is that actually costing me to do that one lawn?
Right.
To compensate for that 10-cent raise at the pump, that I'm putting in a can that I'm mowing everybody's lawn with, I got to divide that up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To make it fair on them, I got to be like, well,
Uh-oh. We lost Matt.
You still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
my wife was calling me.
Oh, you're good.
So, but I hung up on her.
You wanna pause it and then come back?
Can we pause it?
Yeah, let me find a pause button. Yep, it's recording now. Okay. Sorry for
So
the
we're
break,
talking
but
about the gas.
gas price. Yep.
So basically, you're going to the pump, you're filling it up. You might have 2 gallons, whatever, but you got to disperse that 2 gallons across everybody. So you got to divide that up. So you got to figure out, okay, a 10,000 square foot yard isn't going to cost as much to mow as a 5,000 square foot yard, and it's coming out of the same can. So that's a lot of time and energy trying to compute that and trying to adjust because gas prices went up 10 cents. And then in the end, when I actually did figure that out a little bit, and it took me a little while because that's a lot of math for me,
Yeah.
I realized it's really not that much more that you'd have to charge them for their lawn. It's like pennies or nickels, it's not even like a whole dollar.
Wow. Yeah, come to think about it, yeah, I never thought about it that way because the guy with the 5,000 square foot versus the 50,000 square foot yard, they're getting charged. Yeah, that comes out of the same gas can.
Yeah, I understand the logic behind it because I think I saw that same thing on Instagram, and I think Brian's chimed in and was like, "Whoa, bro, I think you're off base on this one." But I think they're both right because Brian, he's looking at the bigger picture, like what's my overall cost over a course of a year, So he's like, I forget what his percentages were, but I think he said it went to like 20%, 20 something percent of a lawn care business expense goes to gas, and I think that's different depending on the equipment you're using, there's just all kinds of variables. So the way I feel about that is you either have to say, okay, I'm just going to do like a blanket increase on everybody, and some people are going to pay a little bit more, some people are going to pay a little bit less, out of that can, and they're just going to have to suck it up and they'll never know. But Brian's right that there's more significant, or I'm sorry, Seth is right that, hey, if you're just raising your prices just because gas went up,
right,
you need to rethink that. Where Brian's mentality on that was, okay, gas went up, but then what about maintenance on all this type of stuff and blah, 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 which
The
he's totally right
total
too.
cost of inflation.
So yeah, but I think if things start trending up, like gas prices go up, like right now we're at for non-ethanol, because we actually get real gas here. I don't know if you guys do.
No.
Um, we get real gas, and you're like, 430 a gallon.
Yeah, we're like 409, something like that.
Yeah. So last year well, I say last year, it was probably more like 2 years ago. We were like $1.60 a gallon.
Yeah, when
So
I first
that's a
broke
big
into the
change.
business, yeah, because my
Yeah.
truck had a 32-gallon tank, and I carried a couple 5-gallon tank, and it's a huge difference, especially for someone new in the business. But if you just budget your business out right and charging your people accordingly to where they're paying for your equipment, they're paying for your employees, you but it's hard to do it if you only got a handful of clients versus you got 20 clients a day for 5 days, and let's say you got 60, 70 weekly accounts versus you got 30 weekly accounts.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, especially on gas consumption. I mean,
Yeah.
that 7 clients a week, you're probably not even going to exhaust a can, you
Right.
know.
But
So
yeah, so it's like as long as you're charging accordingly and you got a huge bit people who got a very large business, like let's say let's just use Rick from Caleb's Lawncare.
yeah,
He does a ton and he's local to me, like 40 miles away. We talk all the time.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, we talk the gospel a lot, and he's always on my case, holding me accountable, which is great. I've never had that
Good,
before,
good.
but like he, no, that doesn't bother him. Where he's doing it the right way versus someone brand new to it that probably really would. They probably don't have their prices right anyway. You know what I mean?
Right,
If they're
right,
pretty new. So it's
right.
all. I
Yeah,
think it's all time. I can justify both ways, just like what you're talking about. But yeah, good. Price of gas goes up. The mechanics got to raise his, and with everything sitting out on the water in California, where they weren't bringing anything in for so long, and everything's on hold. It seems like
that's
everything's
right.
on hold. It's everything gets kicked back in inflation. We all knew inflation was going to be an issue
Yeah,
whenever you print so much money. It's what, $40 trillion. No, I want 40
right,
trillion,
right.
something ridiculous. I don't know. Yeah. So that was just something that was kind of off topic, and we won't go too much longer. It's already getting to be 9:30. Time flies, man. I haven't even realized how long it's been, and anyway. So let's just let's keep going to your story.
Sure.
So you're bringing on a guy, or have you already
Yeah,
got a guy picked out? You've already training a guy, or
I've got 2 guys picked out. I've got one guy hired, and then
you got to take
let's
on
see here.
his
What
whole
month is it?
life.
March. What's that?
His whole life story is now intertwined.
Yeah.
That's what made me nervous. Where I just had guys 1099 and one guy just paid him cash. Oh, you're not allowed to do that. Oh, shut up. Whatever. Everybody does it. But where I had to like everybody says the owner gets paid first. I never did. And maybe I did it wrong, but I looked at him. He had kids and family. I wanted to make sure he was taken care of. I didn't realize the amount of responsibility that I was bringing on
Yeah.
whenever I was just paying guys cash. Like, I just, I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah,
their
I do.
life is now in my hands. I felt like, and maybe I
No, I
could have been
do.
crude but I wasn't that way. I wanted to make sure, so I went last, and that caused a problem with my lady. I didn't put God first in my business, and I didn't have
Yeah.
my wife involved or my fiance involved at all. So it wasn't fair to her, and that's no wonder why I didn't succeed.
Yeah.
I built it on sand instead of rock. But anyway, keep going with bringing a guy on and stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally felt that actually. And that's one of the things that my wife was very concerned about. She was like, if people are going to work for you, you understand that like they're going to count on you for a paycheck. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty heavy. That's super heavy. And last year I was actually reading. I was reading uh, in the Old Testament, and it was talking about all the Old Testament laws.
The Leviticus laws, or
Yeah, the first 5 books of the Bible are all considered the law.
yeah, that's
So
yeah.
so I was reading in there, and it was talking about like that relationship between like employer and employee, and it talked about how if you have somebody working for you, and they're poor, and they owe people money, like they have debts, right? They're trying to live their life because it's hard to go through this life without being in debt to somebody. We're all in debt to somebody in some way, right? Whether you're paying rent or you got a mortgage or your car. I mean, we're all kind of in debt. Everybody's got bills, basically. And they knew that back that time. It's interesting what it said, and it impacted me. It said, if you got somebody, basically an employee of yours, they're in a hard time and they're relying on you for money, don't make them wait for it because they owe people. Like, don't make them wait. It says you're supposed to pay them every day.
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you pay all your employees every day. It just means that you're supposed to care about your employees and the things that they're going through, and understand that just like you got responsibilities, they got responsibilities too. And because you have set yourself over them, you have more than just a responsibility to pay them every 2 weeks. You have a responsibility to care enough about them that you're supposed to, it's supposed to go beyond just employer-employee relationship.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's beautiful too, because not a lot of people preach that message. And you see a lot of guys, whether you turn to YouTube and some of these bigger channels, like, and I get it, we run through a lot. Unfortunately, in the green industry, you get people like me who had struggled with addiction. You have a lot of that because, factories hire fairly regular, it's steady income. You're working all winter long. You ain't got it, but they're like, I had a message for people before, is like, that guy that you might have overlooked or you think is a junkie or coming out of addiction, you're not going to get, he might go to bat for you if you just cared about it. He's probably one of them guys like me. He's never had anybody, do anything nice for him. So he could be the nicest, give you the shirt off his back if that was it.
Yeah.
How do I explain? I'm getting all twisted up inside. So I know exactly what you're saying. Like, as capitalist, I mentioned something in one of my last videos. I said capitalism is a beautiful thing, but it's also ran down because of horrible people that, got into it, and they just destroyed the pure capitalism, the pure trade. Me going to a kid across the street, like, hey man, after you get out of class, you can come work for me. And the beauty of it, to where you can help him buy his first car, but you're not doing it at all. He's working for it. And without him, you wouldn't be able to handle these certain clients, and you're building this together. Maybe you sell your dream, maybe you sell it to your right-hand man, or your first employee usually becomes your right-hand man. Maybe they buy into the dream and they can grow with your business. Now, you own the business, but they're a big part of it. And maybe they can be the crew man later on and make real money. Like, they help you make, because you can't make, you can only get so far as a solo guy.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Yeah. So for the long term, I mean, people have to consider, not just what's a business model, how am I going to generate revenue? How am I going to keep my bottom line where I want it to be? It's so important. And the Bible's really teaching me a lot about business in this way, in regards to the proper way to treat people in business. If you care about them, and you do what's right by them, that's kind of, at least this is my experience now, I feel like that's uncommon in the workplace.
Yeah.
To go to work and
like
actually,
a worker, they're going to act like a worker.
Yeah.
You treat them like maybe a partner, especially early on in business where you're at. You know what I mean?
Kind of try to invest in them, or try to help them to see that, I'm growing this business for me. That's true. This business was here before you, but I can't do this without you.
Right.
And that makes you, in a way, not legally and not authoritatively, but in heart, that makes you part owner of this, really.
Right. Yeah. Take pride. Pride's still a bad word, but take pride in what you're doing, and sell them the dream, but not sell them the dream so they work for you and then you're going to pull the rug, but just be genuine and real. Because, I had a supervisor at one of my old factories, to where if he literally told me to go punch a guy in the face and I knew it was wrong, I would still done it, because he went to bat for me I would have done anything. He was just such a great leader. And if I could ever aspire to be, it's all about, to boil everything down, it's all about charisma and leadership. If you are not a good leader and you don't, people people know when you're lying to them. People know when they're getting used. People know that your
That's
guys are going to
true.
know you're the boss, even though they might they might help you build your business bigger, and you can't do it without them. Maybe let's just
Yeah.
forecast the future. But if you're a good leader to them, they will go to bat for you. Treat them as such,
Yeah.
And what just
Yeah.
like the parable of where the guys getting paid, he's the guys that get paid, they're working 12 hours, they get their one
Yeah. The
visceria.
talents.
Yeah, they get their one piece of gold. I
Or,
can't remember what the coin was called in the
yeah.
scriptures. But then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the guy at the very end of the day works for an hour and he says, "Wait, we've been here all day." He's like, "Hey, you don't the owner of the little vineyard or whatever said, "You don't worry about it. Like these grapes wouldn't
Yeah.
be getting turned into wine
Yeah.
without me paying you whatever." Man, I wish I could have I should have looked into it right before I started this so I can kind of have it fresh
No,
in my
no,
mind.
so that's totally okay. It was really interesting because at the end of that parable, what he tells me, he says, "Did you not agree to work for the same for this amount?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
You knew
about.
you were
Yeah,
starting at this time, and you agreed to work for that.
right. Yeah, so don't
You
worry
know,
about anybody else.
yeah, that's my business if I want to pay this guy this much."
Right.
You know, and it's interesting. Biblically, there's so many different lessons, to be learned, and it's so hard because you work in the world and you work for so many different places, and the world is just the world, right? And there's people that love the Lord that are working in the world, but what my experience is, the places that I've worked is, it's all about, you know you your reward is your paycheck. Like, you don't have to like me, I don't have to like you.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Just get here when I tell you to get here, and I will pay you when I tell you I'm going to pay you.
Yeah.
And be satisfied with your check, which is fine, because in essence, we agreed to do that. They're not necessarily obligated to have that relationship. But man, those businesses that are really, doing well by their employees, I think that's why Chick-fil-A is so successful.
I can't get a sandwich without waiting for an hour. Or not quite an hour, but I'm waiting in line. I'm waiting in line. And
Yeah.
it's the way it is.
Yeah. But it's just everybody. You said you worked for leaders before, and it's just they're so rare. They're so rare to find somebody that knows how to motivate people, and knows how to truly care about them, and not just because you need them, but because you actually care about them. And so that's one of my big goals with taking on employees, is I really want to love them.
Right.
In my heart, I want to love them and care about them. And some people might say it's like, well, that might be to the demise of your business if you care about them more than the business.
I get that. I hear that too. And it just breaks my heart to even that's your first thought, that I've heard the same thing. And it's like, man, you haven't even give the guy a chance. You're already being greedy with your business. Oh, I don't know, but I know exactly what you're saying. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine, because that can happen. That is a pitfall, but the more we grow as leaders, we know where to draw the lines, because you got to be wise to say, okay, this isn't working out anymore. But you're right, you can't be so closed off to your ideal employee that everybody else doesn't matter.
Yeah, because no one's gonna like, especially at first, no one's gonna care. Let's say for the people I helped out, that's rude to say. For the people that I picked up and paid them for the whatever, they didn't really truly care about my business much as I did. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that started it. I'm the one that's got the bread. Like they're doing a job, but I didn't do a good enough job as a leader to sell them on my whole goals. Like I got so wrapped up into like at one time, I still think about it all the time. I dropped these two guys off and told them what to do. And I see it all playing out in my head. And I
Yeah.
get back to the job 2 hours later, or 3, 4, 5 hours later, whatever it was. And nothing quite kind of got done like how I thought it was. And I was kind of a jerk about it. And they know that it was out of my character, that I was just stressed out, but they
Yeah.
still got that. I paid like $20 an hour. So I was feeding out money for a 1-day job that turned into like a 3-day job. And we all got
Yeah.
these stories, and I was so new in business and I was spread so thin. It wasn't fair to them either, but it wasn't, I should have done better, and those are pitfalls that I learn. I look at them like, well, looking back now, like, I'm so glad that happened. So I know, I know to do better. But yeah,
Yeah,
leadership
absolutely,
is
man.
so
You
important.
don't waste those times, and that's something that I've tried to do, or something I tell myself in my business. Like, you know what, if something doesn't work, just stop doing that. Just don't do that anymore.
Right.
Do something different. And I'm not going to say it doesn't matter what you do after that. It does, but you'll know, but you got to stop doing the same thing over and over again that isn't working. You got to do something different,
Right.
even if it's to the next wrong thing. Well, stop doing that too. And until you find the right thing, you find that thing that works.
Yeah. And business takes time. So what, real quick before we close up, you said
Sure.
you're moving to an RV.
Yeah.
I love it. What's going on?
Okay. My wife, she wasn't going to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
She wasn't going to homeschool our kids. Those two things happened. And then never wanted to move out.
We'll talk about that on a different time.
She didn't want to move out in the country. Me and my wife's first camping experience was with our Bible study. Say, hey, we're going camping. My wife thought it was just lunch at the lake.
Uh-oh.
And we're going back home and sleeping in our bed. I'm all like, we need tents. We ain't got no sleeping bags. We need to be doing. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're going camping. She's like, yes, I've got it covered. I said, no, you don't.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So here we are. We bought land at the beginning of the year. And
congratulations.
And honestly, people are going to have called me a little bit stupid, but man, I had like 4 or 5 401ks out there. I just dissolved them all. Just went and bought land.
That's all. They don't make no more of it.
No. And again, Father, I call him Father at times, but Father, really just directed our steps on the house that we have. And fortunately, with the market up, we're just going to make a ton of money on that. And we're going to rebuild a house.
That's awesome.
And we've never been rich people. We've never even been like, we're just normal, average people. Our house is 1,500 square foot and they're stacked right on top of each other. That's the kind of neighborhoods we live in, I mean, that's not like richness. As a matter of fact, when we built our house here, people are like, oh yeah, this is going to be our starter home. I'm like, this is our forever home,
Yeah, this is our home.
Like this is the biggest house I've ever lived in. Yeah. And so now here we are, we're developing land and even that's teaching me about business because I can't get a contractor to return a call. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. I am going to return phone calls.
Did you automate, or are you going to automate some of your like phone calls? Like maybe like I thought about getting like an 844 number, like a toll, and then have it. I don't know, kind of. I don't know. I'll probably just have my number on a shirt like everybody else. But I did look at some of the automated systems where you kind of weed out some people, and then it goes to. You know what I'm talking about? Does that make any sense of what I'm saying?
I'm not sure because I haven't had to do marketing very much in my business.
Okay. Yeah. It's like you set your number up, like this number you'd put on your van or your truck or trailer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like an 844
it's like a call
number.
Forwarding. It's a fake number. Right. And it just forwards it to your phone.
Right. And it kind of weeds some people out. Okay. You know what I mean? With it kind of, the idea is like, if they're just calling for a legit price check versus, going to your email, going to your website, or, going to your, whatever. It just weeds kind of tire kickers out. But then again, at the same time, if you're trying to pick up more mowing accounts, that, big difference between landscape installs versus mowing. Right. Not denigrating, but
I'm trying to automate as much as I can, as long as it makes sense for the business. And sometimes you don't know that, until you try it, and it falls in that category. If it didn't work, then stop doing that. But right now I'm automating, like when I got a delinquent invoice, I got automated follow-up, reminders, because I just can't stand having that phone call. Like, hey, would you pay your bill, please?
Yeah. I can't. I still have a couple of accounts. Well, obviously I'll never see it again, but I definitely, and those are the accounts I had the red flags to where they were already late payers. There were red flags from the beginning, and surprise, it was always trying to do discounts and always trying to do something. So I'm not surprised I never got paid on them. And I just washed my hands and walked away, and I won't hold anybody, but it's still in the back of my mind, the little lessons I learned along the way. I think you getting land is so awesome. Are you going to vlog any of that situation, or?
I mean, I'm so casual with my channel right now. It's kind of one of those things. It's like, I want to,
right.
I want to, but with all these balls I got up in the air,
Right. Yeah.
Because I said we're moving into an RV. That's hopefully temporary. I'm hoping to only be in the RV for 6 months.
Hey, I lived in a camper before, and when we were moving from years ago, moved from one town to another,
Yeah.
and in between, right, waiting for a renter to get out,
Yeah.
I loved it. Like I bought a kayak, and it was in a campground. It was a not.
Hmm.
It wasn't camping. It was a really nice. It was my mom's camper. It was super nice. It wasn't
Hmm.
camping at all. There was internet, like showers. Like I say, camp. It wasn't. But like I bought an inflatable kayak for like 120 bucks at Dick's Sporting
Yeah.
Goods, and I went every morning. I worked third shift, and I'd get off work third shift, and I just take a little cooler, pack a little lunch, and I'd go out, have my little fishing pole, little, 5.5 foot micro fishing pole, and I'd just be on this, never catching anything, just being out there
Yeah.
early morning sunrise. Loved it. One of the best
Yeah.
times, and that's what helped. That's what kind of helped me get out of my funk and depression, or around 2015. So I don't know. Anything you want to say before we close it out?
Oh man. This is always the weird time for me because I'm like, man, I'm just not organized enough in my thoughts to be like, okay, the summary. But no, I guess before I say anything, I just want to tell you I really appreciate and I really enjoyed my time with you tonight. I really
Yeah,
have.
it's
And
flown
and
by,
I'm
man. I didn't mean it for this go this long.
oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was so excited. I was so excited when you contacted me. I was like, Jesse James wants me on his podcast. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's true blessing for me to even be able to get you on here, because I want to get the real deal guys, and not, not nothing against the other channels, but like some people got a script together, and I don't
Yeah.
like channels with scripts together. I don't
Yeah.
nah, I want the real deal, I like it. And
Yeah.
I like talking about God. I want to be honest. I want to be fair. That's the idea of the new rebirth of the channel, is to be open and be honest
Yeah.
with the real
Yeah.
version of it. And I love what you're doing. You extended me a graces, and hopefully we can get, hopefully some of my channel's been kind of dead. So maybe if it pops again, uh, maybe a lot of people have flown over to your show, but man, I'm so happy that you came on. And
Yeah.
obviously,
It's
I'll have your links in the description and
Yeah,
stuff.
sure. That sounds good. And I will try to get some content out if I can with the land, just kind of our experience, because it is kind of neat. It's kind of new. But I will say this: I'm a little protective over my family now. Uh, we didn't have any negative experiences, but what was happening is when I was trying to really try to do something with the YouTube channel, somebody pays for that, and it's my family, I mean, that's what happens. So I'm trying to ride that line, you know.
Speaking of that, when I got home, Kayla knew I had an interview coming up with you, and she just wasn't sure when. And Jesse Michael was going through potty training, my 3-year-old, and like she's just like, right now, and I was like, but we had a plan that like she's going to be involved in the business. I'm going to start teaching her how to edit. So she knows now,
Yeah.
but before she would be super mad before, but now this time I
Yeah.
actually got her involved. And a lot of people don't understand, like they'll watch a video and maybe they don't like what I say or you say, and they hit the thumbs down, they move on. They only watch a minute or two, but it's like, man, a lot of time goes into these stupid little videos. Yeah. We might not be the
That's
best
right.
at editing. We might not know how to do it the fancy way or know how to keep your attention, but we do enjoy it. And we we make these videos to truly help people and to share our story. And
That's true. That's so
there's a lot
true.
of love that goes behind the videos, and a lot of work that goes behind, and a lot of missing time from family. You're away from your family and kin. I'm away from my family and kin. And it's truly, I believe, to help somebody along. I don't want people to learn from my mistakes. I want to be able to share my story, learn from my
Yeah.
mistakes. I want people to hear
Yeah.
your story. I want them to know that, if you're in any kind of trouble, you can always put it on God. God can take it. Where
Oh
you're
yeah.
mad at God. That's what, lastly too, is like people say, I don't know what to do. And yell at God if you have to. He can take it. He's the creator of the universe. If you're mad, go to the woods and scream as loud as you can. I don't care what you got to do. God can take all of it. Don't take it out on anybody else. You don't need to lay in your bedroom
Yeah.
like I did and go scream, yell, punch a tree. Don't break your arm, but God can take it, and you'll be better. It'll be better for it. I
Just
definitely
don't punch a
appreciate.
rock.
Yeah, don't punch a rock. Yeah, I definitely appreciate you being on. All your stuff will be in the bottom below, and all that good stuff. Got any last words then?
Just Lord bless your audience, man. Lord bless you. I feel like I've gotten to know you more, and your audience identifies with you. So I feel like in a way I've kind of maybe gotten to know them a little bit more too. So, but anyways, yeah, just Lord bless you. Lord bless your audience, bless your channel, your family, your business, your full-time job. I love what you said about that. You've been a real encouragement to me. I hope that I was encouraging to you and to anybody that's going to listen to this later on, maybe. And man, just reach out anytime if you want.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's definitely been a blessing. So with that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. The Lawncare little guy is, the links will be in the description below. We appreciate you guys listening to, well, these are important stories. So we definitely appreciate you listening, whether you're listening to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, all the places, wherever you buy, sell, or purchase podcast/YouTube. Appreciate you. This was the Average Idiot Podcast. Appreciate you guys. Eastern Kentucky's only, America's only AI powered platform. We'll see you guys later.